So, how important was our favorite bald hero? What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Mind the Madman. My name is Ruben, aka the Madman, and today we're coming back with another Dragon Ball What If theory. Now, this theory is very special for me because it was actually requested by one of my subscribers. He goes by the name of CT. He made this request on my previous What If theory from Dragon Ball Z, the What If Popovich had not beat up Videl. He made this request about 10 months ago during my hiatus from the channel. Special to me because one, it's a subscriber requested video, but even more so, I did check out his channel after I saw his request, and it turns out he does nothing but Dragon Ball What If theories. That's his specific topic of discussion on his channel. So for someone who does these things for his own channel, making a request of me to hear my thoughts, kind of touches me in a very good way. So I definitely recommend checking out his channel. It'll be linked in the description below. But let's get right into the topic at hand. Now, of course, you all can read the description of the video. This is the theory of what would have happened if Goku had never met Krillin. Now, I will give you a warning, this is not a very happy video, because I come to realize during my research and personal thought about the topic that Krillin's a lot more important than people give him credit for. Some people put him in, only the big thing of his death in Dragon Ball Z being the advent of Super Saiyan. But I realized that without Krillin from the beginning, the series would never have gone beyond Dragon Ball, at least not the story that we know. The Dragon World would have been drastically different without Krillin's presence in Goku's life. Let's get right into it. So, of course, Krillin and Goku meet at a very young age to both train under Master Roshi. Krillin himself was a monk from a temple who was training beforehand, but over time he decided to leave the temple and go train with Roshi instead because of how he was treated by the other monks in the temple. They met at a young age, and of course they went through all their training montages with the turtle shells and the milk crates, and definitely something if you haven't seen it, go back and watch original Dragon Ball. The unorthodox training of Roshi was beneficial for both of them and led to a lot of funny moments. In the beginning, Krillin really didn't even like Goku too much. He felt he was bumbling and didn't take his training seriously. But over time, of course, they became one of the biggest friendships in anime history. That, of course, led to Goku's reaction to his death in Dragon Ball Z, leading to the most iconic transformation known to anime to date. But if Krillin had never gone to Roshi, if let's say he had stayed at his temple in this theory, he'd stayed with the temple and only trained there. The interesting thing is, Goku, I don't think he would have trained as hard as he did. Now, I still think he would have gone to Roshi for training to get stronger, because after seeing the Kamehameha for the first time, he was intrigued by what Roshi had to offer when it comes to the training of martial arts. So I still think he would have gone for training, but he wouldn't have been as enthusiastic, I think, without Krillin's presence. Goku never really took note of the animosity coming off of Krillin in the beginning, and his, good-hearted nature eventually wore down Krillin to be friends with him. But without him there in the first place, I don't think Goku would have trained as hard or took it as seriously, particularly because this is Goku's first master since his grandfather, and presumably the training was very different. There was less combat involved, more what we learn now as strength training and endurance training. But without the actual, flash of the combat training, I don't think Goku would have pushed as hard as he did. Now, in this theory, Krillin is still alive, he still exists in the Dragon World, and he's still training at the temple. And considering in the first World Martial Arts Tournament that they actually met the monks from his temple, we can assume that Goku's first meeting with Krillin would have been here at the first World Martial Arts Tournament they were part of. I don't think it would have been much of a important meeting between the two, because of the fact that Goku didn't know who he was and Krillin didn't know who Goku was, and there was no reason for them to really care about the others more than a fellow combatant in the tournament. Now, saying they may not even have met in the ring, Krillin more than likely wouldn't have got as strong as he did under Roshi's training, because the monks in that temple didn't really treat him the same, because he was shorter and just all around different than the rest of them. So I don't think he would have been anywhere near as strong, so he probably wouldn't have made out of the preliminaries. But for argument's sake, he does get through and eventually meets Goku in the ring. Goku did have more innate talent and did go through the physical training with Roshi, so Goku would have won that fight pretty easily, and it wouldn't have been of much consequence to the story other than another fighter that Goku beat. The tournament from that point goes on as usual. I believe Goku would have still met Jackie Chan in the finals, Jackie Chan of course being Roshi. The only difference here is that, like I said, Goku not taking his training as seriously without Krillin. It would have ended a lot easier with Jackie Chan being the winner. Still with the same motivational tactic that Roshi wanted to push Goku to train harder. That would still have the same effect, and Goku would have wanted to kind of dig into training a little heavier down the line after losing to Jackie Chan. But going forward, the story is kind of the same, just with the absence of Krillin. He did make some impact in the story besides this, but not so much up until the tournament we first meet Piccolo's children. Now, of course, I'm speaking of Demon King Piccolo, or Piccolo Daimao. His children first made their appearance after a world tournament. They were coming to steal Goku's Dragon Ball. Now, what made Krillin's presence so important was the fact that in this tournament, Krillin dies. He's actually killed by one of Piccolo Daimao's children, Tambourine. Now, in the original story, Goku senses that something's wrong with Krillin. What we can kind of assume is this is like the birth of the making of the sense power levels from a distance. And of course he runs in, sees Krillin dead, and takes off for revenge. Now this revenge, of course, he starts off fairly successful, but once he meets Demon King Piccolo, it's not even a close fight. Goku gets very badly injured, and we almost lose him as a character. But of course, with plot convenience, Yajirobe is there to take him up to Korin's tower and for him to go into training all over again. What we don't realize until you really think about it, without Krillin's presence there, Goku probably wouldn't have known that the Dragon Ball was stolen. There was no way for him to sense that, nor would they have assumed it was going to happen. Also with that, he never would have gotten injured to the point where he needed a sensu and training with Korin. Later on, we realized that Goku was a Saiyan, and this was his first real Zenkai boost, which helps explain how he got so much more powerful after that defeat. He never would have experienced that without Krillin's death. Now, how does this change the story? Well, of course, Goku never would have known that the Dragon Ball was stolen, so Piccolo would have had a much easier time. There would have been no really interference from Goku and his team for some time after this. He probably actually could have made it all the way through to making his wish without any outside interference. By the time Goku realized the Dragon Ball was gone, it would have been almost too late. He may have been able to trace it to Piccolo before it was used, but the wish was going to be made, and Shenron would have been destroyed without Goku getting there. If he does, in fact, face off against Demon King Piccolo after the wish, or before for that matter, he is nowhere near powerful enough and probably would have died if he met him after his wish was made to return his youth. And there really was nothing they could have done about it. Shenron was gone, so even if they had, Goku survived and somehow went for training, it may have been too little too late. Goku may have just been killed right off the bat against Demon King Piccolo, and there was nothing they can do to stop him. With Goku gone and Kami and Mr. Popo never making their appearance until much later in the story, more than likely Demon King Piccolo would have just taken over the planet as he originally planned. So Goku's dead, or gone out of the story at least, and moving forward, the world would be under the rule of Demon King Piccolo until Raditz arrives a few years later. And when Raditz arrived, he would have taken out King Piccolo, and that would be, just another planet for Frieza to take over down the line. So without Krillin, in fact, we never would have gotten out of the Dragon Ball era. Krillin is actually responsible through his death, pushing Goku to new heights and continuing on the story as we know it. So, surprisingly enough, Krillin might just be even a bigger hero than Goku, because without him, we never would have gotten anywhere close to what we have now. So that's an interesting theory to think about. Once again, thanks to CT for the suggestion. That's all I got for you guys today. If you have any other thoughts about this topic, or think it may have gone a little differently, leave a comment below and we'll talk about it. Other than that, this has been Mind of a Madman. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.
And I